Hello and welcome to this new edition of the Foojay Podcast. Today we're going to talk about Foojay itself, the website for friends of OpenJDK.
Welcome to the Foojay Podcast, all your news about OpenJDK.
In this episode, we want to give you a look behind the curtains of Foojay.io. The very first post on the website dates from April 25th in 2020, and it was by Geertjan Wielenga. Let's look back and what has happened on Foojay during the 2.5 years since that first post, and talk to some of the people behind the project.
Hi, I'm Geertjan. I'm one of the initiators of the Foojay project, and I work at Azul.
Hi, my name is Bazlur Rahman. I work as a senior software engineer at Contrast Security. I'm a Java champion, conference speaker, and a writer of Foojay. That's about me.
Hi, my name is Wasse. I've been involved in the Java space for quite a while, 15 to 20 years, depending on how you count, and been involved in many Java communities, Java user group, also CodeMotion, and since a while, I think for over a year, also involved in Foojay through my company OpenValue in the advisory board, and I'm also part of the certification committee at Foojay.
And I'm Frank Delporte. I've been doing Java development for almost 15 years now. I write on Foojay about Java on the Raspberry Pi and some experiments in that topic. And just before the summer, I joined Azul as a technical writer. Let's start with the basics. Geertjan, can you describe what Foojay is all about?
Up until the point where we started this project, April 2020, for many years, there hadn't been a central vendor-neutral place for the Java community. What's happened since Oracle took over Sun is that very clearly there's been a lot of innovation and growth and multiple releases, 4 different releases of Java per year. And also there's been a growth of vendors. So now you can get Java from not just Oracle, but also Red Hat or Azul or Bellsoft or Amazon and about 10 other places. So on the one hand, that's great that there's been so much innovation and so much growth and so much new releases and new vendors and so much activity. On the other hand, it makes things quite confusing. And so Azul thought in 2020, let's put together a website together with other organizations who have this similar need for a coherent place and also as a service to the Java community and to new users in the Java world. And so I joined Azul specifically to work on this project. And that's how it started. And we've brought together a number of different organizations who have a similar interest in helping the Java community. And it's been a great process.
And one of the main goals of Foojay is to provide content around Java. There's at least 1 or even 2 articles per day being published. Who are all these contributors?
Yes, that's interesting because we started with the idea of let's provide clear lists of who the different vendors are of Java, because there isn't one. It isn't Oracle. It's Red Hat, Amazon, Bellsoft, Azul, etc., etc. And also we thought let's provide clear lists of fixes because there are 4 releases per year. But who knows what is in those 4 releases? Aside from the major release where you get, the LTS release where you get a clear discussions and so on around that and release notes and things, you don't really know what's going on in the other releases. So that's what we started with. But then we realized, hey, okay, so we have this starting point, but that would basically mean that once a quarter we would have new information on Foojay. We need more content than that on a more regular cadence. And we also need to bring people on board. And just as Java.net back in the day had a blogging portion on its site, we want to provide that possibility to the Java community as well. And so we have via Slack set up the possibility for people to interact with each other, to bring forth ideas, and also to publish their content on Foojay. So every Monday morning we put up a schedule and we discuss that together and whether we agree or disagree based on what's in draft. It's all on WordPress. And then we publish that content. And we never knew really how much content we would want to publish. And you don't want to flood the humble Java developer who has many things to do in their life with dozens of articles per day, but instead probably you want to read one or two well thought about and well curated articles. And that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years on the blogging side, bringing together 1 or 2 articles per day from multiple different people, from people like Ray Tseng from Google, Matt Rabel from Okta, such as yourself. A lot of content about Raspberry Pi and JavaFX comes from you. Bazlur has amazing content around Java performance and Java threading, and very long series about concurrency. So anyone who has ideas or content, whether it's existed a long time or whether it's completely new, they can bring it together and just publish it on Foojay. And it's very low threshold, very easy to get involved and get started with us.
And also we can refer now to a few of the articles which are actually available on Foojay. One is about the Slack channel. So you're saying there's a lot of discussion ongoing on Slack. It's not only about the publishing part that happens on Slack, there's also more information being shared there.
Yes, in principle, anyone can join in, anyone doing anything with Java. And if you have questions about Java, maybe you've been going to Stack Overflow or you've been going to all kinds of other places. But what about having a Slack channel where you can ask your questions and answer people's questions and interact with each other as a community? That's really what the Foojay Slack is about, and it's open to anybody to join in. So it's the idea is really to collaborate and to bring content together and to bring people together around the common platform, which is the OpenJDK, in a completely vendor neutral way. So it's completely open to anyone to participate in together. It's not promoting any particular company more than any other particular company. It's completely aimed at the Java community having a place to bring its content together and to have a community platform around the OpenJDK.
And we also have an article that we can add to the show notes is how you can submit content to Foojay. Bazlur, you're having content on Foojay yourself, but you're also a reviewer. What is your goal to participate in Foojay?
I see multiple benefits joining over here in Foojay. First and foremost, like Geertjan mentioned, it's a community, right? It provides an excellent opportunity to make friends. And that's what I found. I have, since I began to contribute over here, I met some wonderful people and they became my friends. And when you have friends, you can share your ideas pretty easily compared to, other people, right? You can ask help pretty easily. So that's what I have been greatly benefited from this Foojay community. And secondly, it's just not about making friends. It's also, be part of a professional network, right? Networks has numerous advantages, I suppose. We all know about it, right? You can gain access to opportunities. You can build and raise your professional, profiles. You can build your personal brands and so on. I mean, the benefits are enormous. And I have all, achieved through this community. So Foojay definitely, succeeded in that. And I was asked this question when I joined here by one of the member. So why you joined over here? I said pretty much the same answer. I want to make some friends. And I did. So yeah. And apart from all of this, the other thing is we are constantly learning things through books, through our experiences, and many random thoughts are, sort of racing through our heads. But not all of them are, in a concrete, right? But we know something concrete for sure when we're able to express them in words, perhaps in writing, right? So that's in fact proves our understanding whether we are clear or not. When you are a master of a certain ideas or topics, when you can teach others, and you can teach others by many forms, creating videos, writings, and everyone happens to have different way or medium to teach others. So personally, I like writing. So that's why, I always come up with the ideas of writing. I can give you a concrete example. For example, I was confident that I had a good understanding of Java concurrency. However, it wasn't until I started writing about it, right? So I realized that I have a wide area of things that I don't know or I have, lackings. So then I, go back and study those things again. So I realized those things from writing. So in another way, this method is, if you start writing, it will help you to determine whether you are unclear on a particular topic or you are, if you're not. So yeah, these are all these benefits I found joining in this, Foojay. I mean, I personally benefited a lot from it. So I'll definitely continue to contribute as much as I can and continue making friends like you all.
I can fully agree. I've done the same. I was writing about Java on Raspberry Pi, which is a very specific topic. It were all things I was learning myself. And then by exchanging the same content as on my own blog, but also on Foojay, indeed, you can have a wider audience and people you get more feedback. Is this really a good explanation? And I wrote these articles because I was learning myself, and then exchanging that information with Foojay is indeed a great opportunity.
And I think also Bazlur is a very interesting use case here because Bazlur is now working at Contrast Security. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Bazlur, but it's because you were involved in Foojay, or at least partly because of that you met Eric Koslow, who at the time was working at Contrast Security, and through that interaction between yourselves, you managed to get a placement, a job in that organization. In the meantime, he's joined Azul, but it's really a place where you can interact with people, and you discover that there are jobs available in different places, and because of your interactions and because of the kind of content you provide, people kind of learn what your interests are, and they can figure out for themselves whether that fits into the places that they have open in their organizations.
Yes, that's correct.
It's, by the way, the same way I ended up with Azul as being a writer.
It's a kind of a job board. It's kind of people interacting with each other and learning about what their skills are and what their interests are, and then discovering, hey, we have this and this position in our organization. Hey, and I know somebody on Foojay who has the skills that we need here. And that's really interesting. There was never a big idea behind it. We've been talking about a job board for a long time, but on the one hand, I think most developers probably find jobs through the network or through LinkedIn and et cetera. But and so maybe we don't really need a formal job board. But what Foojay is an informal job board, because you discover what people can do through your interactions, and then you can fill in the gaps you have in your organization based on that.
So that's indeed true. I know that when we want to get a job, the number one criteria is the person who are willing to give you a job is whether he trusts you or not. I mean, we all have technical expertise, but trust is the first things that that is required to hire you someone. So if I know someone and I'm confident about his work, his skills, then I'm pretty much willing to give him the opportunity, right? Compared to someone who has excellent opportunity, excellent skill, but I don't know him personally or I never seen his work. So that's itself proof that. So I think in that regard, Foojay is definitely a great place. You can showcase your work, you can build a professional network, also your friends, and your friends will definitely recommend you if there is an opportunity, in their radar.
Roy, there are several people of OpenValue writing also on Foojay. Are these somewhere involved in finding new jobs, or were they already working for OpenValue?
Well, I think I heard the first time about Foojay about 2 years ago, and if I understand correctly, it has been around since 2020. Is that correct, Geertjan? So I was actually in the early days. I was still active at the Dutch Java user group, and we were always looking at the Dutch Java user group. How can we maybe organize cool events, do things together with others, have nice meetups for our members of the JUG. And we found Foojay to be a really interesting initiative, like a global community where you can easily meet other people who are active in the community. And also at OpenValue, we're a relatively small company, and one of our core values is knowledge sharing. So we do a lot of conference talks, we have our own blog, we do a lot of meetups, trainings, etc. So also from that angle, I thought it's really interesting to get involved with Foojay, just to meet people. Like Bazlur also said, you get a feeling about who knows a lot about certain subjects. It's really easy to reach out to people. I shared that with my colleagues, and I said, well, there's a great opportunity to also share our content maybe on Foojay. And I asked Geertjan, are there possibilities? Well, for sure. I think especially my colleague that was in the former podcast, Miro, he has written quite a few blog posts already. I know that one is coming up also right now, or maybe it's already live. It's a nice, if you're passionate about something, then it's really nice, of course, to share that with others who are also interested in that subject. And Foojay is just a great place for that. So I think that's the reason why a few of us are contributing.
And I think also what's interesting is that normally when there is a site where articles about Java or whatever technology are published, it's not a site run by the people who publish the content themselves. And this is what is really quite unique here. I mean, all these other places are wonderful, server-side, dzone, and et cetera, they do have a commercial angle, they do have advertising, and it's all understandable and great. But here there is zero advertising, and everything is done by the people who provide the content. So we all work on it together, and it's quite a different setup to the normal places where you would publish content.
Geertjan, you mentioned Azul was actually the founding father or mother of Foojay, but now there is this whole advisory board with a lot of companies. OpenValue is also part of that. What is the goal of this advisory board?
Well, the advisory board is there partly to validate the project, to say, look, we believe in this project. Simply that is a valuable thing, and the organizations listed on that site, so foojay.io/board, it's not a random person in that company who has made available a logo and a quote. It's really the organization needs to be behind it. An organization doesn't give a logo and a quote just from one person. It's really an organizational commitment. Because if you say that we believe in this project and we validate it, then you're also implicitly saying that you want to contribute to it. You want to maintain and sustain it. So you want to be part of the project. You want to provide content, and it's also a way to get feedback. It's a way to check if we are all going in the right direction together. And because there's a whole range of organizations, and they're all well-known organizations in the Java community, like Payara and JFrog and DataStax and Datadog and OpenValue, and more are joining, and Vaden and many. Because of that range, you really get a stable combination of organizations that have feelers into each part of the whole Java community. Which makes it a very balanced structure to lean on and to depend on.
Is that also why OpenValue is part of the advisory board, Roy?
Yeah, I think Geertjan explained it really well, why Foojay is really important. The Java field is constantly changing, and I think it's a fantastic challenge to keep up with everything. And it's really important that we do that together as a community, not from a certain vendor perspective, but from all the different vendors and people contributing to Java together. They determine the course of Java, and you need some kind of forum for that. And I think there wasn't really a global forum where you could have these kinds of discussions, where you could have indeed all these articles that are being published. But the only reason is to basically share the knowledge, spread the word about what's going on. Of course, why is a company then supporting that? There must also be like a business reason, right? And I simply believe if OpenValue wants to have a good reputation, if we want to do projects right at customers, it's really important to keep on top of the latest developments. And what better way to keep on top of the latest developments by sharing knowledge about what you know, because each time that you write an article or that you give a talk or something comparable, you kind of challenge yourself to be, well, really exact in what you tell, and that you really understand what you're trying to explain to others. So the fact that you challenge yourself as a company by sharing knowledge, and that Foojay is a great platform for that I would say is the reason.
Okay, going back to the daily content that is published on Foojay. Bazlur, there is also a role for a moderator, and you are one of these moderators for the content. What is actually this role that you are doing?
We don't have to do a lot of work because our writer is pretty good at their writing, and their content is pretty much top notch. So personally, as a moderator, we don't do a lot of work, but what we see basically is we make sure that the content is properly formatted, the syntax of the code is properly highlighted, and we also refer related article in the bottom of the page and the right of the page. And also we add, like, if there is a paragraph is too long, we probably break a little bit so that it's easier for readers to read it. Also, we decide one thing, which is what are the content we are going to publish this week. Geertjan is the one who does that every week, and the reviewers pretty much pick those topic and see all those things like formatting, syntax highlighting, and we provide good SEO titles. And finally, we publish that in our Twitter channel. So these are the roles basically as a reviewer. But pretty much our writers are well equipped with their content, and we usually don't do a lot of work. We don't do a lot of change.
So it's mainly the cosmetic changes and keeping everything in line.
Yes.
Yeah.
A quick other point to make, Frank. From the very beginning, one of the ideas behind Foojay, also because we started this at the start of the Corona time period, where people were not going to conferences and were therefore not able to build up their network. So many people who've been around for a while have a network that they can rely on and so on, and know the people in the Java community. But if you are new in the Java community, how do you build up, how do you get people to know that you are there? You start a blog on your own somewhere, but no one knows about your blog. You want to go to a conference, but no one knows who you are. So you need a platform like this. It's really useful, because then you come and you write your content, and you put your content in the same place where Java champions and other people who are very well known put their content. So one example of that is Helen Scott from JetBrains. Now, I believe at the time, 2 years ago when we started the project and she became quite involved, I hadn't really heard of her. She was quite new at JetBrains. In the meantime, she's been at Mongo. She's back at JetBrains. She's now keynote speaker at the unconference at the Manchester Jug in a couple of months. I mean, she's really used, or this platform has enabled her to become visible in the community. So it's an opportunity for people to take. Here is a place where you can come and put your content and have other people critique it and look at it and see what you are doing, so that when you put your submissions in for conferences and so on, people know who you are.
And although there are already over 150 contributors, anyone is welcome to join still.
Always.
We will add the link.
The more the better.
Yeah, indeed. We will add the link to how to submit your next article on Foojay. So Foojay is just a WordPress site, so that means that it's pretty easy to use for everyone to contribute.
Foojay is a WordPress site, but it's not just a WordPress site. It's a highly extended WordPress site. It's developed by a great team in Ukraine. And the company is called Yoke. Let me promote them right here. In the middle of the war over there, they're working on Foojay and extending it. So for example, if you want to use AsciiDoc, if you want to use Markdown, which you can't traditionally in WordPress, they've added on extensions to the Foojay WordPress to enable you to do that. There's all kinds of features that have been added and continually being added. The big thing right now is forums. So one thing we are working to add is forums. And again, that's going to be an extension that's being worked on right now in Ukraine.
Yeah, we already mentioned now the blog. We already mentioned the almanac, the events. We have Slack. We have the Twitter. We have this podcast, which you should know as you are listening. We already had a conference at FOSDEM. We are also recording this podcast on the very few day of...
It's at JConf, half an hour from now, so it doesn't make any sense at the time that we release this. But coincidentally, half an hour from now, Foojay Day at JConf in Chicago is starting. And there's a great lineup of speakers. Steve Poole from Sonotype. There are people from Gradle, from Hazelcast. Venkat is doing the keynote. So We really want to bring the community together around this this common neutral platform and provide something of use to everybody.
Which is a great extension of the already a massive list of content we have. So you mentioned the forum which is coming, and then there's one fascinating thing which is ongoing on Slack I've seen is the certification program.
Yeah, certification is a really interesting topic, I would say, in the software development space. And if you look at Java, traditionally we have Oracle Certified Associate, Certified Programmer certification. And I think those were actually well set up certification programs. We had books, trainings, an exam. I think it was also not really easy to become certified in associate and definitely not in professional. You need to memorize a lot about the Java API and in the order which program runs. And I think although that's really important as a programmer to understand the flow of a program and to understand the Java API. Being a good programmer is maybe more than just that. It's about skills that you embody as a programmer, that you understand how to write a piece of code, how to refactor it, how to test code, etc., etc. And this is something that you learn by doing. And it's, of course, a bit harder to test that. You cannot test it with a multiple choice question. It's procedural knowledge and not declarative knowledge. If you go back to the school books about types of knowledge that we have. We had a discussion with a couple of people at Foojay. Basically, also with I think there were quite a lot of Java champions involved at one point in the discussion. What would be a good way to actually test the skills of a developer? And I think almost everybody agreed that while the traditional Java certification offers value, it doesn't really predict if you're a proficient programmer. So it does help you, but there's more to it. And especially you should be able to demonstrate that you have certain skills. I came into touch with a Norwegian associate professor at the Oslo University. It's really a fun story. In the beginning of the century, he had a PhD that was all around recognizing traits that predict if you're a good programmer. And he eventually created a model after his PhD. And he kept on doing some scientific research, and he got a grant, and he was able to actually hire some programmers from the market to test this model. And what did this model do? Well, it tests the proficiency of developers. And a way to actually score that is by the way he did it. He had a model which had certain traits, and by letting different developers do the test and compare the results with each other, he could actually predict how good somebody is at refactoring, at testing, etc. So this was a really nice platform, and eventually became a product. And I thought, well, this concept behind this product could be really valuable also for the Java community. So if we can maybe come up with ideas about what you should test in the skill set of a Java developer, and we could also translate that to this model that this guy at the Oslo University created, we could have something really valuable. And of course, you do need a platform like Foojay to first create like a consensus about what it actually means to be a good developer. That's step one. Step two is you got to find like a committee of people who are willing to discuss, think about how you could go one step further, what aspects should specifically be tested, what kind of IDEs should you be able to use, also the practical stuff about the platform, how can to make sure anybody can use it. But we formed that committee with a few people, and we're actually made quite a few steps, and we're now working on first prototype. And I think it looks really promising at this point. So there's a lot to it.
I think this will probably solve a lot of discussions and Twitter jokes about the questions being asked in a job interview of what is. I always say, if I had a job interview, I'm not a JIT compiler. I will not able to explain what exactly is happening, but I have been doing Java development for over 10 years, but I think I would fail a lot of theoretical exams.
You know, I always thought there's a lot of fun doing these multiple choice questions of certification programs, but it's mainly that it's fun, right? I mean, there's a reason that we use an IDE and not Notepad as an editor. So if you want to pass the current Oracle certification professional program, you need to put in probably weeks, if not months, of study, even if you're an experienced developer. And I think that says it all, right? You know, you mentioned about a job interview, and there are a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions about how to do a tech interview. Some experienced developers say, I don't even want to do a tech interview because I'm an experienced developer. Well, yeah, you can have all sorts of opinions about this. But ideally, if we would really truly succeed with this program, so the nice thing about the Foojay developer program is that you give a developer certain tasks, programming tasks. Each task, well, it lasts between 20 to 40 minutes per task. And well, the way that you complete the task are compared to a database of other people who complete the tasks. And based on how you did the task, you're compared to them and you get a relative score of your proficiency. So you can, in this model, replace the tasks. What does that mean? This means if you do like a Foojay developer test in the beginning of your career, maybe you score like a 3 on a scale from 0 to 10. But as you grow in your proficiency, you can redo the test with different tasks. And because of the way it's set up, it's fair to compare the score and the later moment in your career to the earlier one, and you can go from a 3 to a 6 without you having any advantage of having the test done before. You can even do this during a training course. If you teach somebody like Java fundamentals or something similar, you can measure at the beginning and at the end of the training. And I think this is something truly unique to this setup, because again, if you have ever done Java certified professional certification, the best way to prepare is basically practice a lot of the exam questions that you can find on the internet, because otherwise it will be pretty hard to pass. I'm quite sure that a lot of people do that, and this is something that won't work with the setup that we've chosen.
Sounds very interesting and fun. Even trying then to do the exams just for to know your score in the system. Geertjan, are there other ideas? I think a lot, but what are the plans for the near future?
Well, there's quite a lot of small things that need to be tweaked on the Foojay site, and that could be better. As I mentioned, there's the forums coming up, which will be really great for SEO, so that people can find those answers to questions. I think that is one thing that is a problem with Slack, that someone can ask a question on the Slack channel and you get an answer, but no one will be able to find it again. And that's what we want to solve by having a forum. And so once that is there, maybe really a job board. I think a job board is good because it would result in people coming, and it would increase the traffic. If Foojay were to be the place where you would go to find jobs in the Java ecosystem, and the starting point would be that there would be job ads there from Payara and from DataStax and from Hazelcast and from Azul and from OpenValue. All the board members would have their job ads there. That's one area. Another area that I think is interesting is the calendar. So right now there is a calendar on Foojay, and you can put your events in there, but it could be much more user-friendly. And I'm thinking about something more like Google Calendar. So imagine if there was like a Google Calendar type events calendar, and very clearly visible and very prominent, where you could just click on a date on that calendar as anybody. And so without logging in or anything, just click on that date and put in your event, and it would then be in draft. and then we would determine whether or not it's nonsense or whether we should actually publish that. So really make the calendar be a central place where you would always go to as a place to see what conferences are coming up, what are the meetups, what are the jugs, and that you can do searches and things like that.
Yeah, it's really, I didn't know you were planning on that as well. And I just want to say, you triggered some idea. So it's really always a challenge to find out about which call for papers actually open. You constantly need to refresh different pages. It would be really awesome to also add like call for papers, start and ending dates to that.
I think also going beyond that, when you go to a conference, if you've been to a conference many times, you've been to a particular city many times, and there are coffee hangouts that you're aware of, and there are museums that you visited. So imagine if you would get tips from speakers from previous years to the conference you're going to next week about, hey, I went here and I went there, and this was interesting. There's all kinds of interesting sharing we can do purely beyond the event itself, tips and tricks and insights about the place. And voting and all kinds of things we could build around that. And this is really, it takes time. It takes time. Our development team is in the middle of a war, among other things. So, but these potentials are there. I mean, anything that we want, we can actually implement.
Mm-hmm. To summarize, we have a lot of Foojay content, Java content. We have all the versions. We have the release notes. We have changes between Java versions. We have command line options. Forum is coming and certification is coming. So yeah, it's one big community around Java and everything related.
Well, actually, it's broader. It's OpenJDK. So in principle, it's Kotlin as well, for example. So it's really beyond that.
So the website already contains a lot of content, Java related and everything GVM related. But is this something you can add about the community?
The great thing about Foojay is it's so easy to reach out to, a lot of important people, or basically people in the global Java community. You can ask a question and you probably get an answer really, really fast. If you try like LinkedIn or Twitter, people who don't know you probably don't get a response. It's hard to get a response. And each time I try to contact somebody on Foojay, I always got a response. So I think that's maybe for me one of the greatest things about Foojay.
One very quick thing. I think what is quite unique as well about Foojay is that we want to keep things simple. It's really low threshold, and we know that people are busy and they have jobs and they work for companies where they want that content as well. So at Foojay, what we want to do is provide a place that extends what you are doing in your organization. So blog posts that you have for your organization are welcome at Foojay as well. And you find that as people read about something else, completely unrelated to your thing, they read about your thing because it's in this place where everything is together. And getting involved is simple. There's a Slack channel. WordPress in many ways is horrible, but in other ways, everyone knows how it works. And it's quite simple to use. And in a perfect world, you would have a Java alternative. And someone is welcome to create a Java alternative. And as soon as it's at least as good as WordPress, we'll adopt it. But it's all low threshold and simple. We don't want to make life difficult. So join in and share your content and become well known in the Java community.
It's also really nice that more companies support Foojay. It's a great place to learn from each other. And I think if your company is also part of the Foojay advisory board, it also gives people who potentially would work at you a good idea about how you think about community. So definitely encourage everybody to join the ranks.
Final thing I would like to say is, if you want to make good friends, join Foojay. Foojay is friends of OpenJDK, and everyone will be your friend.
There's no better way to end this podcast than with this message. Thank you very much. First of all, the guests of this episode, and also you for listening. Keep an eye on Foojay.io for future articles about development and everything related to the Java world. Thanks for listening.
Give me a Foo, give me a J, give me the friends of OpenJDK.